Welcome to this week's episode of Cow Daily. This week, we're talking about Liverpool's fans booing at Wembley at the Cup final. We're talking about working from home. We're talking about, help us out, what else we're talking about this week?
We are talking about certain statues.
Statues!
And coming out in football.
Oh yeah, coming out in football. That's a cool thing. We're really looking forward to talking about that one actually as well. Also got return of positive news as ever, the palate cleanser that we all love, know, and all of that. Tell us how you are though, mate. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm still recovering from the excitement of Eurovision at the weekend, which is one of my favourite events of the year.
Is it? Why? Tell us why though, because I don't understand.
Because I don't know. Well, I don't understand how anybody can claim to be into politics and not be fascinated by Eurovision. It's the amount of like backstabbing and kind of gives you like a weird glimpse of like the global scene, but in a really camp way. So if you want to know what's going on in the world, watch Eurovision. It was quite fascinating. Yeah, and it's just, I don't know, you always get like loads of like kind of ballady type things, which I find quite boring. But then there'll always be one or two that are just utterly batshit, where you're just looking at it going, what on earth is this? I think Moldova, who are quite typical for putting out weird stuff, they were one of them this year, and Norway had some delightfully weird fuckery going on. Which was about a wolf and a banana, and it had a dance. It was just good. That's what I watch it for that kind of thing. I'm not that arsed about ballads and sequins.
I'd just like to point something out. I mean, like, I am one of the people who do not give a fuck about Eurovision. Like, I just do not. I've maybe watched some of it sometimes. I mean, for me, it's still synonymous with Cheryl Baker getting her skirt whipped off when she was singing for Bucks Fizz, and it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
That's still my vision of Eurovision. So all of this has passed me well by.
Yeah,
and I'm not sorry.
It's the one day of the year where I'll just flush my anarcho-punk credentials down the toilet and just absolutely revel in the weirdness of it. So, yeah.
I mean, do you know what? Like, for somebody who didn't watch it, this is how I like responded to all the reaction to it, right? It was like some like broadcast from a different world. I'm so far removed from that kind of like version of popular culture. It's ridiculous. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm super cool or anything like that. It's just I just don't watch live telly really generally. Didn't even watch the football that much anymore. Listen to Gateshead on the radio. I'm like, gives me flat cap and all that. No Peaky Blinders. But my crack with it is, it's just it was the whole sort of Ukraine thing. Everybody voting for fucking Ukraine to win. Was it the best song?
No.
Well, there you go. But
this is
bullshit.
It's very rarely the best song that wins. This is what I mean about how it kind of gives you a snapshot of what's going on in the world. Like, of course, that was going to happen. Yeah, they won. They won because they won by the public vote. If it wasn't for that, bizarrely, the UK would have won. Which never happened.
What was that about? Why was everybody banging them loads of points? Because normally it's like no points in it.
Well, I don't know. It was he won the jury vote, so England won, but then you've got the public vote as well, and then that adds points, and the Ukraine got a massive share of the public vote. I mean, he seemed, to be honest, I didn't think much of the song, but he seemed like a really, really canny lad. Whenever you heard him talk, he was like a really kind of positive person. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. He just seemed to be having a right laugh and kind of just enjoying every minute of it, even when he didn't win. So
it's kind of weird. Like, I mean, I'm not going to trash the shit out of it because I
don't care. It's
I fucking hate it. It's like, seriously, it gets so on my tits. It gets utterly on my tits.
Eurovision's one of those things, you have a strong opinion about it. There's no like, oh, I can take it or leave it. You either think it's great or you absolutely despise it, and that's fine.
I mean, all of that kind of like Ukraine winning and it's not the best song stuff. It's just weak shit, man. It's like what I've always thought this. It's kind of like, oh, well, like let's give out the prize to them for no reason. Like, it's not, when I say no reason, it's like clearly not for their talent. So I always have a problem when there's all these talented people, like, oh, I say all of them, some talented people at Eurovision, and they don't rise to the top and win, and it's all that like utter nonsense where people are like, oh, I'm going to vote for Ukraine because like it's all bad that's happening to them. And like, make sure you give half me votes to the Azov battalion because like there's only like a certain percentage of them who are actual Nazis. The rest of them are fine. What's wrong with you? There's something seriously wrong with you that you've got a problem with like giving armaments to Nazis. So sorry, I went from Eurovision to the Azov battalion, but that's what happens when you politicize a fucking song competition.
Yeah, it's we'll see next year whether they'll be hosting it or not, because that's what's meant to happen. If you win Eurovision, you then host it. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like where they're going to host it, and that Steelworks. Do it on Snake Island.
Yeah,
like fuck off Russian warship.
Oh God, that'll be the opening song, I think. Fuck off Russian warship.
That's what they should do. Ukraine should do like a techno track, an industrial one called "Fuck Off Russian Warship," and perform it dancing around like smeared in Russian blood. Because apparently that's all right now. Because all Russians are bad now. Apparently, because xenophobia is always a good idea. You can tell I'm really pissed with this whole thing. Anyway, let's see who's with us. Let's take some comments. Joanne is saying Eurovision was super fab. Whatever. And Robert is saying Eurovision is really like Marmite. Absolutely.
It really is like Marmite.
Is it? It is. And I'm just, anyway, we'll move on from that absolute travesty. But please subscribe to the Cow Daily YouTube channel where you can hear more cynical invective on a weekly basis. But also, please share the stream. Thank you very much. Right then, shall we bash on?
Yep.
Right, I shall just pull the running order up, see what we're doing. Actually, before we do, one for you, I believe. This weekend, Newcastle Ewan Brown Anarchist Book Fair. That's 21st of May 2022 at the Star and Shadow Cinema, Warwick Street, Newcastle, NE21BB. What's on there, my friend?
Absolutely loads. They've managed to organise a really cracking event here, actually, and I think it's just one of those things where there's going to be something for everybody. So you've got they've got lots of workshops on. If you have a look at their website, it'll tell you, it'll give you the full list. I know that Newcastle Fight Centre doing some demonstrations.
Oh, wicked!
Yeah, brilliant. Lumpen, which is a journal for poor and working class writers who do loads of good work in the community. They're going to be doing something. There's lots of different stalls from different organisations on that you can go and have a look at and find out more about. They've got artists, they've got some bands and poets as well. But if you're not into, kind of want something a bit quieter as well, I believe they're also showing a film, and they're going to be showing Ken Loach's Land and Freedom if you just want something a bit more chilled.
Well, as I said it before, I've been wanting to see that for a while, Spanish Civil War and all that.
Yeah, it's meant to be good, and it's like one of those films that I kind of can't believe I haven't seen yet, but I just haven't got around to it. So might go and check it out there. It's really, the venue's kind of really accessible if you've got kind of any disabilities, and they do have British Sign Language interpreters around the venue as well.
Right, great,
for anybody who knew Ewan as well, I think they're going to be showing some of his sort of short films that he made, and going to have various bits of his work around as well, which will be lovely.
Magic stuff. Please do get along. So that's Newcastle Ewan Brown Anarchist Book Fair, 21st of May, this Saturday. Star and Shadow Cinema, Warwick Street, Newcastle. Still time to book and all of that good stuff if you're from outside the area. Do people need a book? Is there a charge or is it free?
No. You can just show up.
You can just show up to the workshops as a drop-in?
I believe so. Might have to check the website for that one, so please don't quote me on it. Do double check. But yeah, as far as I know, it's one of those things that you can just show up at and pick and choose what you're interested in.
Happy days. And the Star and Shadow is a wheelchair accessible venue, everybody. Happy days. One thing I did want to mention, at the weekend, I watched the UFC. I'm a martial arts fan, love it. It's probably, I would say it's the sport I watch more than anything else. And there was a lad from Bishop Auckland called Davy Grant, and he's making a run for the title. He's 38, and he won. It wasn't a title match, but he's probably got one or two more before he gets his title shot. But he's done really well. The reason I'm bringing it up is, firstly, big up Davy Grant, but also I absolutely love it when things like this happen. This is him having a party with a light heavyweight called Jan Blachowicz after the fight. Davy Grant, massive New Monkey fan. So for people outside the Northeast, he was in Vegas in his hotel room with the Polish power Jan Blachowicz and all of his coaches and that, and they were just getting smashed on vodka. They'd both won. Playing the New Monkey. Shouts to MC Tazo and Ace and all that. I believe that's who it was. I might be wrong. Tell us if I'm wrong. But I just love things like that. It's like when Jordan Pickford, the England goalkeeper, he was playing in, I think it was the Euros or whatever, and there was a Get the Rave On flag with a New Monkey logo on it, the monkey that you saw at the start of the clip. And I just think it's amazing that somebody who is in the public eye like that knows who MC Stompin is. It's just unbelievable stuff. So more of that sort of thing. New Monkey getting blasted in Las Vegas at the weekend. Shouts to Davy Grant.
Yeah.
Davy Grant. He's a lovely lad as well, apparently. Really nice. He comes across really nice as well. So I just wanted to sort of pick him up. And also the New Monkey. What are we saying about the New Monkey? Right, what we got? Right, so Liverpool FC. I've got a real affinity with Liverpool, but at the weekend, the Liverpool fans booed Prince William, the national anthem. There's been a big hoo-ha and a big stink, and it plays into this whole culture war thing. What I want to do with this section is some of the outcry, like, why are they booing? What's it got to do with anything? So I asked a question the other day, and I was like, well, what do you think the reasons are? So these are by no means exhaustive, but these are definitely some of them. So firstly, this is what happened.
The FA presentation party is led by the President of the Football Association, His Royal Highness the Duke of Cambridge, followed by the FA's chair,
And that's enough of that. We don't need more of that. Kurt! Flash cut. Kurt! Don't want to hear it.
Now, I'd heard about this, but that's the first time I've seen the footage of it.
You've been busy as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
I hadn't actually seen it until I started pulling the clips together.
No.
Apparently, Prince William started crying.
Right. I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. But I think it was the Sun newspaper who maybe claimed this. And I saw a picture which was meant to be the evidence of it. And, you know, he could have been wiping his nose. He could have been. It's one of those ones that you couldn't see his face. It was like taken from the back of his head. It was one of those. I would definitely take that one with a pinch of salt. But
absolute dafties. So basically, here's some more of the info. So this is how the Mail has screeched: anger as Liverpool Cup final fans boo William. Anger by who? One asks. So On Monday, Johnson, this is Boris Johnson, via his spokesperson, had his say on the matter, declaring that it was a great shame for Liverpool supporters to boo the national anthem. Asked if the PM believed there was ever a reason to boo the national anthem, Johnson's official spokesman said, and I'd just like to point out, there's no way that he said any of this if it comes from his official spokesman. They've just done some kind of boilerplate fucking bullshit. No, obviously the events over the weekend, it was a great shame that as we're making 150 years of the FA Cup, that brings people together, that a small minority choose to act in that way. It wasn't a small minority. Also, so Lindsay Hoyle, the Commons Speaker, as much use as a chocolate fire guard, but that's an aside, also voiced his criticism on the jeering and told the Mail on Sunday, I utterly condemn any fans who booed Prince William at Wembley. The FA Cup final should be an occasion when we come together as a country. It should not be ruined by a minority of fans' totally shameful behaviour. And this year of all year, the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. This is dreadful. Fuck off. Anyway, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, whether you agree with what they did or not, and personally, on this particular issue, I am big up Liverpool. Like yourself, always had a bit of an affinity for the Scousers. It was the city where my granddad first arrived in when he came from Somalia. Never met a Scouser I didn't like, but then I've never met Nadine Dorries either.
She's not a real one.
No, she isn't. I think she was just born there. She definitely doesn't sound like one. But whether you can have an opinion as to whether you think that they were right to boo or not. You can't, if you're one of these people who has been banging on the past few weeks about free speech, and all the rest of it, you can't really say anything about it.
Quite.
is my opinion on it. I'd more ask yourself questions as to why this was happening. And I think that's what people are not doing enough of. What about yourself?
Well, in terms of this, I mean, as you know, I've lived in Liverpool. I used to go past the Hillsborough Memorial. We'll do a bit more on Hillsborough later when we come to the reasons which fueled this reaction. And I used to walk past Crosby Library every morning to get the train to work. And there's a Hillsborough Memorial there for the people of Sefton who sadly lost their lives in. I'm not calling it the Hillsborough disaster, and you'll see why later on. Everybody, because it wasn't. But I'll save it for then. So my initial take on this is big up all Scousers everywhere at all times. Anyway, moving on. Just some of the reasons, right? This is like something called managed decline. Now, for years, this was denied by the Tories. And what it is, I'll just pull it up, actually. I tried to make this as big as it could possibly go. So I've pulled it up on a slide as well, because lessons learned from the past of not being able to actually read things. So anyway, here it is. Right. Well, what's on the screen now is a letter from the Treasury. And this was in the 1980s. And this, do you remember Geoffrey Howe?
Yes, I do.
Like it's Thatcher's cabinet, blah, blah. So what it says is, Prime Minister, and this is to Thatcher, obviously, Liverpool in block capitals. Like you, I had the chance before going off on holiday of a short talk with Michael Heseltine about the forthcoming Merseyside report. This is obviously not the time for a reaction to the detail of what he will have to suggest, but there is one short point worth making now. As you know, I have for some years had some sympathy with his idea of giving several ministers the responsibility for individual regions. In the present context, it may serve too as a useful reminder of the need to be careful not to overcommit scarce resources to Liverpool. For reasons which we all understand, I fear that Merseyside is going to be much the hardest nut to crack. It will be hard to persuade prospective private sector investors to take the opposite view, even as we do not want to find ourselves concentrating all the limited cash that may have to be made available into Liverpool and having nothing left for possibly more promising areas such as the West Midlands or even the Northeast. It would be even more regrettable if some of the brighter ideas for renewing economic activity were to be sown only on relatively stony ground on the banks of the Mersey. I cannot help feeling that the option of a managed decline, which the CPRS rejected in its study of Merseyside, is one which we should not forget altogether. We must not expend all our resources in trying to make water flow uphill. Geoffrey Howe, August 1981. I'll just put another bit in. So this is from a book about militancy in Liverpool. But the quote is, "There'll be rats eating babies on the streets before we do anything to help Liverpool." And that's Eric Sorensen, the senior civil servant in Thatcher's government. So, and also just an aside, Robbie Fowler, who's like a Liverpool forward line legend, has shocked face emoji.
I think that's a shocked face emoji is a bit of an understatement. Jesus Christ. So
Exactly.
Is managed decline exactly what it sounds like on there? Because I read that phrase and was like, bloody hell, that can't be what it sounds like.
Yes, in answer to your question, that's exactly what they did. And continue to do to this day. I mean, recently, I think there was something like 8 Labour councillors just resigned in Liverpool and have got like a different group within the council now because they refused to submit a budget that they felt didn't meet the needs of the people of Liverpool. So they've had to resign, obviously, the Labour Party do it because Labour again are about as much use as a chocolate fire guard. And it goes on and it goes on and it continues and it goes on. And I mean, look, we can look at like the North as a whole, and we talked about this last week about how there's been like minus 3.6 billion in funding because the way funding works, it comes from a block grant from central government. They use some formula and then it's spread into the regions. Somehow their formula has come up with that the North needs 3.6 billion less, but the Southeast needs 3.4 billion more. Managed decline has been on geographical lines for decades. You've seen the proof. And Liverpool and Merseyside in general hit harder than anybody. So the reason I'm bringing this kind of stuff up, people are legitimately twisting and whinging about Liverpool fans booing the anthem and booing William. And it's like, well, the Queen's got nothing to do with it and all that. It's about the fucking establishment. They represent that. Tories, like the Queen's basically the head friggin' Tory. Don't get it twisted. Like all of this, like even fucking some liberals are all like, oh, well, leave the Queen alone. She's wonderful. Was she wonderful when they were paying out, what was it, 12 million to somebody who her son didn't nonce allegedly quite recently?
Yeah,
exactly. And then at the memorial for Prince Philip, she chose him out of all her kids to walk her up the aisle. So just fuck off with this nonsense, man. Nonsense. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this absolute travesty?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at things like that, you know, the better question to ask is why would you cheer? Why would you, if we look at kind of what national anthems are, it's not even just about the Queen, really, is it? It's, it's about that, it's about patriotism and nationalism, and why would you cheer on, a song representing the state when that is what they have been doing to you for decades, if not centuries? That doesn't make sense. Why on earth would you cheer? Just because, as you say, because of the Queen or whatever it is. It's
because we've all got to love the Queen, haven't we? Oh, fucking shut up. Like, I mean, I spoke to my parents the other day, and I video called them, and I was like, "What do you think of this?" I didn't ring them for that; it just come up in conversation. And like, people give the older generation this kind of like blanket brush of they're all like royalists and this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
Like, the call consisted of me and my dad going, "Up there, Scousers, come on," and just like being properly passionate about what they'd done. Why? Because I'm from the northeast of England. I lived through the 80s. The area had a similar run to it as Merseyside or Glasgow or other working class areas. Now, what people are thinking is as if this somehow is in a vacuum or something. This is all wrapped up in the 80s law and LORE, not LAW, and like what went on with Thatcher and whatnot. Now, the 1987 Cup final in Scotland, I think, Thatcher was there. And this is what happened.
Assured. And there is the Prime Minister, Mrs. Thatcher, making her first public appearance. She's been at Hampden since about 1:15, and that is the first view we've had of her since she arrived. She's had lunch, and I think she's eagerly anticipating seeing a stirring and exciting game, and I hope she thoroughly enjoys herself.
Note, edited that clip to the Ireland flags on the end for no reason whatsoever. That was Celtic versus Motherwell. And obviously, as you can see, lots of Ireland flags, right?
Yeah.
Glasgow, large Irish Catholic immigrant population. Liverpool, large Irish Catholic immigrant population. That is wrapped up in this too. You know, like there's a lot of people in Liverpool, and I know this through personal experience from living there, where you'll be having a drink at somebody's house after being in the pub, and somebody will stick the Rebel songs on, and nothing's the matter. You could do that in other places, even Newcastle to a degree, and there'd be a fight. You know, but like it's a very rebellious place. People seem to be quite savvy about like the situation in Ireland historically and how that feeds into things. Now, do not for 1 minute think that doesn't have an impact on what you've just seen. Obviously, with Celtic, it was always going to happen. But the Motherwell fans, after this clip, were all singing with the Celtic fans, "Maggie, get the fuck, Maggie, Maggie, get to fuck." So, another one of the factors that we've got at play here is obviously Hillsborough. And I refuse to call it the Hillsborough disaster because that has certain connotations, which, as you will see, what I want to make really, really, really clear first and get this factually correct. So on the 12th of September 2012, the Hillsborough Independent Panel concluded that no Liverpool fans were responsible for the disaster. Say that again. No Liverpool fans were responsible in any way for the disaster, and that its main cause was lack of police control. That lack of police control, say it again 3 times, lack of police control. Crowd safety was compromised at every level, and overcrowding issues had been recorded 2 years earlier, and obviously nothing done about it. So the panel found no evidence that alcohol or unruly behavior had played a role in the disaster. I'm not using that word. And it believed that as many as 41 deaths could have been averted by better rescue efforts. In December 2012, the coroner's finding that the deaths were accidental was overturned. So on the left is the Sun so-called newspaper's front page. Headline is "The Truth." Subheading: some fans picked pockets of victims. Some fans urinated on the brave cops. Some fans beat up PC, given kiss of life. Bullshit. So after that, on the right, you'll see another copy of the Sun newspaper, which they've put "The Real Truth." Cops smeared Liverpool fans to deflect blame. The Sun: we are profoundly sorry for false reports. Whatever. 41 lives could have been saved, says New Probe. Families of 96 victims call for prosecutions. Also, David Cameron at the time apologised in Parliament to the people of Liverpool, I'd just like to point out. Just a whistle-stop tour through some of it. At the start in Sheffield, I believe, the man who hid the truth, that's Duckenfield, the copper. Police chief took cover-up decision. 164 police statements were altered. Criticism removed from 116 records. Strenuous efforts to blame the fans. From the Mirror, this is in 2021. Hillsborough police cover-up victims awarded compensation days after ex-officers cleared. One angry relative said today, "You couldn't make it up," as 9 days after a judge ordered a jury to clear 3 men accused of changing police statements, police agree to pay damages. So in 2021, the cover-up and the chicanery and all the bollocks from the establishment was still happening. That was last year. Do not disrespect Scousers for booing the representation of the establishment that was forced on them on their special day. In the same competition, the FA Cup, that the Hillsborough cover-up and everything that went on that day occurred. So, from Business Insider, today's Liverpool decision confirms what Liverpool has known for years. The 96 deaths, it's actually 97 now. There's a gentleman died recently, sadly. And if you want to look into more about that, please do. The 97 deaths were part of a police cover-up, not a disaster. So, what do you make of all of this, Alice? And were you aware of all of this as well?
I was aware of some of it. I knew about the, about the kind of the findings, which confirmed what lots of us have been saying for years and years, that it wasn't how it was reported. Obviously, we know why the Sun was so hated, by Liverpool and, by those of us in solidarity with Liverpool. So I did know quite a lot of it by then. I did know that somebody very recently died of the injuries that they sustained as well there. So it is actually 97. And I was thinking about it, and there's a lot of we have a lot of negative regional stereotypes about people, people from different places. And, a lot of the ones that you will hear about people from Liverpool is, that they are, self-pitying thugs who never take any, responsibility for their own actions and things. And a lot of that came from what was reported on Hillsborough at the time. That is, those kind of stereotypes. A lot of them are as a direct result, because I remember it back then. I remember those initial headlines and what people were saying, was about what was printed in the Sun newspaper and others, and by what was said by the police. And we've known for a long time that it isn't true. And the only reason that the truth has now come out is because the people of Liverpool, the families of the people who died there, have refused to back down, despite all the efforts to keep pushing them back. They haven't done that. They kept going and they kept going. And
Anne Williams, Hillsborough Survivors Group, so many others, magic. And
finally it came out, and quite rightly so. Tell me why they would cheer, to ask yourself why you would cheer, why are you cheering on, a country that thinks, especially if you're anywhere in the north, that thinks that little of you, that, looks at the area where you live in and, is making decisions about whether just to let it rot or looking at it as a blank canvas that they can sell off to the highest bidder. That's what they do.
No doubt about it. And I'm getting progressively more angry the more I'm sort of thinking about this. And I was utterly angry about it earlier today. The top and bottom of it is, if you are a person who's been to a football match and you are the opposition fans and you start singing anything to do with Hillsborough, fucking scumbag. That's what you are. No doubt about it. Bin dippers, all that stuff. It's not just banter. You're a fucking scumbag. Support your own. Liverpool fans, and generally tend to be your own. Fuck all of this like manufactured football rivalry shit. Put it to the side. Fuck all this royalist nonsense. Nonsense. Put it to the side. Have a think, and before you decide to pick up your fucking device and start going, what do they think they're doing? How about you ask yourself the questions that we've done, or share this video with, I don't know, your soul or lack thereof. Leave the fucking Scousers alone. They've been through enough, and I hope they win absolutely everything this season. Everything, and every season going forward, because it still wouldn't be enough for the shit that they've went through. So up the Scousers at all times. I want to play this section out, right? But firstly, I'm going to just take some comments and then I'll play it out with a video that I found today, and it was recorded on the day, but I'll tell you about in a minute. How ye? Chalky Allah. Now, people who don't know what that is, it means our day will come. And you should look into that. That's 2 seconds. For some reason, my computer is not getting rid of these things or putting them on the screen. StreamYard's having a mare again. Here we go. Jez Hunt, just popping in to say hello and boo the Royals in the establishment. Thanks for dropping in, sir.
Lovely.
Steve Jackson, South Yorkshire Police, the same lot responsible for the
Yeah.
Battle of Orgreave. Exactly.
Yeah, very
Corrupt
much
as
so.
hell. And one thing I'd like to just mention as well, Spy Cops inquiry is starting again, and the lies and bullshit that's coming out is ridiculous. Go to spycops.info. Tom Fowler, you were one of the funniest blokes that we've had on. Lovely man. He's currently live tweeting it, and also he's basically I'll put all the links in the description of this and when you come back to it. So anyway, back to this. There's something I wanted to play out with, and it was the commentator on the day of the Hillsborough, what are we going to call it now? Because I'm so programmed to call it disaster. Hillsborough cover-up, but that doesn't cover it either. It doesn't cover the people. Anyway, I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah,
I'll find something and I'll call it that. Travesty, let's call it that. So this is a clip that I took, and I actually cried when I watched it the first time. So fucking strap yourself in. This is obviously before all of the we saw the Sun newspaper from the day after. All of the smear campaign started ratcheting up. So this is what this guy was saying.
The sun is shining now, and Hillsborough's quiet, and over there to the left, the green Yorkshire Hills. And who would have known that people would die here in the stadium this afternoon? I don't necessarily want to reflect on Heysel, but I was there that night broadcasting with Emlyn Hughes, and he was sitting behind me this afternoon. And after half an hour of watching stretchers going out and oxygen cylinders being brought in and ambulance sirens screaming, he touched me on the shoulder and he said, "I can't take any more," and Emlyn Hughes left. The gymnasium here at Hillsborough is being used as a mortuary for the dead. And at this moment, stewards have got little paper bags, and they're gathering up the personal belongings of the spectators, and the red and white scarves of Liverpool, and red and white bobble hats of Liverpool, and red and white rosettes of Liverpool, and nothing else. And the sun shines now.
Yes, my bottom lip absolutely. I had to like desensitize myself to that clip. Like I watched it like 3 times after, so I wouldn't lose it now. But yeah, in it. Anybody who, like, I defy anybody to watch this segment we've put together, right? And still, yeah, I'm on the edge of crying as well, mate. And still disrespect Scousers. Fuck you. Leave them the fuck alone. And actually, even better, support them, because they are the point of the spear of a working class movement just by their general culture. I love Liverpool. I love the people of Liverpool. Fuck you if you fucking want to disrespect them. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing, because I'm trying desperately to hold it together right now. So, whatever else is next. Let's talk about working from home, which is like a slight departure from what we've been talking about. So, Alice, I'll just set the scene and then I'll bring you in.
Of course.
So, sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just about to say it's really kind of come from 2 pieces of news that's been in this week, really. So
happy days. So basically, Boris, I refuse to call him that. Johnson, working from home doesn't work. Exclusive. In my experience, you make a coffee, go to the fridge, hack off a piece of cheese, and walk very slowly back to your computer, PM tells the Mail. Working from home doesn't work, Boris Johnson said today, as he called for a return to the workplace to drive up productivity. Now, I'll bring other stuff in later, but you've got plenty for, haven't you, Alice? So let's hear it.
Yeah, so we decided to talk about this because there's been 2 things in the news this week. The first one that I saw was it was in the Financial Post. And that was, I think it was talking a lot about what's going on in America at the time, but it is relevant to the UK as well. That a lot of offices are trying to get their employees back, and a lot of workers are defying this, and they're continuing to resist that, and they're continuing to work from home, despite kind of efforts to try and get them back into the office, and that's something we are seeing here as well. And they were talking to some American CEO about this, and saying, why do you think people should be back? And he was claiming that spontaneous decision making and kind of better working and better ideas are kind of created when you've got people in the office. And this is something that Boris Johnson has repeated as well. So the second thing that was in the news was the headline that we've just seen, and Boris Johnson's comments about that, where he's basically turned around and said that working from home doesn't work because it's too easy to apparently be distracted by coffee and cheese. This is one of those headlines that I read that, and I read it when I was on the metro. And I kind of, I am somebody who's just starting to kind of come back out into the world, and I sometimes forget where I am. And I think I just was looking at my phone and just went, oh, fuck off, like in the middle. I didn't realize I was on a packed metro. And I do this quite a lot where things come out loud that should only be in my head. Jacob Rees-Mogg got in on the whole thing as well. Jacob Rees-Mogg, this is somebody who's just, they're cutting 91,000 jobs in the civil service, has said, he was suspicious about workers' desires to be working from home on Fridays and Mondays. And all I could think of was, well, apart from, the stream of obscenities, was given the amount of fines that have been handed out left, right and centre to, the ministers and all of their staff over what they're all getting up into lockdown, and everything we know about the wine fridges and everything like that, it's not surprising that they think that people are slacking off when they're working from home, because they think that people are working exactly how they do. But we don't have wine fridges when we're there. And you know what? If I want to eat a piece of fucking cheese in my house while I'm working, I think I'm allowed to do that. It doesn't necessarily stop me from getting my job done. And they've done surveys on this. It's, what they're saying is absolutely not true. Actually, over half of workers, are saying that they're more productive when they're working from home.
I'll just bring this in here. Several studies of the past few months show productivity while working remotely from home is better than working in an office setting. On average, those who work from home spend 10 minutes less a day being unproductive, work one more day a week, and are 47% more productive. Yeah.
I mean, I worked for 2 years from home solidly. I didn't go into the office once. During that time, I got an absolute shitload of done. But I'm somebody I'm neurodivergent, and I work better when there is no noise. Around me, if there is if there's a fridge making a weird noise, if there's a colleague who just won't stop flicking the top of their pen on and off or any, I can't tune it out. I find it really, really difficult. But that said, we all work differently, and I think it's, it is important to acknowledge that some people don't like working, and when I'm saying this as well, obviously we do acknowledge that there's some people who can't do their job from home. At the minute, I have a job where part of my job can't be done from home. So it does involve going out into the community. But again, I quite like that, because I'm somebody who can become far too introverted if I'm allowed to be, and actually it does me good to be out there a little bit. But a lot of my job involves paperwork as well, and like a lot of people's does. So I am better off at home when I'm doing that. I worked in 2 different places during the pandemic, and the first one, when things started reopening, they had a policy of where you can come back if you want. How often is up to you, or if you want to carry on working, that is also fine. And we had a real mix of people. I don't know if other workplaces have been like this, a real mix of people who wanted to come back, who'd been very isolated, who didn't like it, and other people who were quite happy working from home. And so it worked really well. Basically, just letting workers do what they want and work how they want to turned out to be a really good move, because it meant people were able to go back in if they wanted. They didn't have to be completely isolated. I think we've got to acknowledge as well that thanks to the cost of living crisis as well, a lot of people are worried about using energy at home as well, which shouldn't be a reason that they should have to worry about coming into work. But people saying it helps with childcare costs, with travel costs. It means there's less
Definitely.
people on the roads. There's loads of reasons why, and I think we should be kind of accepting that hybrid working is a thing that we're doing. But unfortunately, it's no, come back into the office, and we're getting this from the Prime Minister. Why? Well, the government have lots of lobbyists who own lots of property, and a lot of those will be office buildings, and they want people back in to be paying rents. It's also worth mentioning that 1 in 6 MPs are landlords themselves, and it might be that they have some interest in, in having people back into office space. So they're not. This is the only reason that the studies show that it's, that hybrid working is really the best way of doing things. It's not letting, I know some people who really struggled working from home during the pandemic, either because of stuff that was going on at home, or, I know one person said it just felt like they were always at work, that they never left, because, they felt they didn't have a space between their work life and their personal life. And although I didn't find that myself, I do get that, and I can see how that would happen. And, you've got to be sensitive to that too.
Definitely.
But there's ways of managing this. And saying that working from home doesn't work is absolute bullshit, because it does work very well for a lot of people.
Indeed,
and a lot
it does.
of people are quite happy to, here we go.
Well, I've got quite a few different things which will nail this section. It's basically, we opened it up with Boris Johnson saying what he said, and then hacking the cheese and all that. Obviously, as you've said, it's all about him and him assessing other people by his norms and values. So anyway, this is from Forbes. Basically, Karl Marx's absolutely favorite thing. No, it's basically the capitalist Bible, Forbes magazine. 3 new studies end debate over effectiveness of hybrid and remote work. That's end debate. So what does the scientific data show? This is from Stanford University. Basically I took a lot from that, but there's a variety of studies, which it's always good, much like getting 3 quotes from a tradesman. Get 3 studies, and it tends to be we'll see patterns. So what does the scientific data show? To resolve the debate, it's time to go beyond subjective opinion and look at the objective science. David Powell, president of ProDiscore, said that data showed that if an employee was highly productive in office, they'll be productive at home. And if employees slacked off at the office, they'll do the same at home. After evaluating over 105 million data points from 30,000 US-based ProDiscore users, we discovered a 5% increase in productivity during the pandemic work from home period, he said. Although, as we know, any variant of the COVID-19 virus is unpredictable, employee productivity is not. So regardless of what's going on in the world, the constant productivity thing, whether at home or not, will be present. So 2 studies in early 2022 validated the views of remote hybrid work advocates. Research from Owl Labs found that remote and hybrid employees were 22% happier than workers in an on-site office environment and stayed in their jobs longer. Plus, remote workers had less stress, more focus, and were more productive than when they toiled in the office. Working from home led to better work-life balance and was more beneficial for the physical and mental well-being of employees. One more. A study from Ergotron sampled 1,000 full-time workers. It found that as workers become more acclimated to hybrid and remote office environments since the onset of COVID-19, the hybrid workplace model has empowered employees to reclaim physical health, and they are seeing mental health benefits too. A total of 56% of employees cited mental health improvements, better work-life balance, and more physical activity. I did not include the key highlights from the study because we're a bit pushed for time tonight because we've had to cover so much. However, it's absolutely to your point there that even if you take an average of all of those studies, it's still an improvement in productivity no matter which way you slice it, under whichever metric or whichever way each individual study was conducted. It's all a net positive. Alice, care to end us with any final thoughts on this one?
The same as I would with every segment. Don't trust the government. They're telling lies. They just want you back in the office so that they can appease the landlords, most of which are themselves.
Indeed. Who knew that it would be to their benefit, and that's why they go into politics.
And Jacob Rees-Mogg can shut the fuck up when he's talking about worker productivity, when we've all seen the photographs of him lying across the benches in Parliament with his fucking eyes closed. Yeah.
Arsehole. Arsehole. He's like the epitome of like how could you tug your forelock at him? I can sort of like conceptualize it with the Queen, but him.
No.
Are you actually for real? So anyway, that was the working from home thing. Boris Johnson, full of shit. Never trust a Tory. Brilliant. Let's see what people are saying out there in the world. I tell you what, right? StreamYard really not working at the minute, but we shall persevere. Joanna's saying working from home worked when they wanted it to.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed. Mr. Hunt says that mop-headed bellend and the Chancellor works from home when they're not on the high constantly. The rest of us can actually get on with work. Indeed. Paula Checkland is saying they mean we best protect our corporate property landlord donors and get people back to offices before businesses realize that they really don't need that massive overhead. Indeed. Exactly. Robert is saying working with the climate change pending, working from home is a no-brainer.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Everybody be switched on tonight. So, happy days. That's Boris Johnson, like body bagged once again, and he won't care because he hasn't left office for any of these heinous reasons. He's just gonna talk his crap. It actually just popped up in the comments there. Paul Veronica saying, where are all the comments? Are they hiding them from me? Don't know, mate. They are actually here. Right. Don't know. Sorry about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I find that as well, Paul. Like, I have the same issue. I can never see them either. When I look, I don't know what's causing the issue either.
No idea. StreamYard's been playing silly buggers recently, so who knows? Anyway, we saw Thatcher earlier getting booed to bits by the Celtic fans. Now this. Margaret Thatcher statue egged within hours of it being installed. This is in Grantham in Lincolnshire, where she's from. As predicted, they've also, as part of the £300,000 it's cost to install this thing, part of that's for CCTV, because they knew within hours this would happen. I've got a bit to say about this in a bit, but Alice, what are your thoughts on this?
Why did they make it so dark? It looks like it's made out of coal. It isn't. In case you're wondering, it's made out of bronze. In case anybody was wondering, but that was the first thing that struck me about it. It was like, oh God, as if it couldn't be tasteless enough. They've managed to make it look like it's made out of coal.
This thing here.
I'm kind of oddly all right with that image. I don't know.
I don't know why I like that image, but there's something about it.
So they've just decided to erect a statue of a woman who, well, let's face it, the only time she was sadly missed was at the Brighton Hotel. So,
could you not do that when I take a mouthful of vape? I nearly exploded me lungs there. At the Brighton Hotel.
Yeah. So yeah, this is it. Well, I was about to say it's come out of nowhere. It hasn't. It's something that they have. I have heard them talking about for ages, but the sudden decision for it to appear, it seems to have come out of nowhere. We knew that the statue had been made. And then it's just kind of been announced. And I think it was within 2 hours. I think it had already, I think there was initially going to be some like big ceremony or something like that, but they decided not to go ahead with that again. For obvious reasons. It's just, God, they're determined to put up a fucking statue of her, aren't they?
This is obvious bait. If anybody takes this bait, then you're a friggin' mug. Like, they've CCTV'd a statue of one of the most hated people in the country. And do you really think, after all this statues carry on, where people have got some heavy sentences, by the way, that they're not just baiting like people. Also, I'd like to point out the police crime and sentencing bill will certainly take care of anybody who decides to do anything to it. So tread wisely.
Yeah.
It's just more culture war bait. I cannot at all entertain the fact that they haven't done this on purpose. What do you think?
I'm in two minds about that, I think. Yeah, I mean, the CCTV is there. That's, that isn't something that is to be debated. It exists, and it's there for exactly the reason that we think it is as well, which is to try, if anybody tries, they anticipate people are going to try and damage it. And they now have new powers to be able to do things like that again. That said, I do know that some people who, despite knowing that it might be bait, might still be determined to want to visit it. All I can say is, please make sure you don't have any tomatoes near it. Tomatoes contain chlorides, which can cause irreversible damage to bronze. If you're delivering tomatoes to your grandmother, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so please wear a mask. Still, masks are self-care. People,
masks are important.
If you're absolutely determined to pay your respects to this lovely lady. But yeah, I think it certainly, even if that hasn't been the aim of putting it up, and it's not quite as, cloak and dagger as that, certainly the media are going to use it as that, all the focus, because they love shit like this, don't they? So I do agree with you that lots of the focus will be on this statue and causing lots of, social media outrage about people trying to do things to it. I've posted things about this on a public page before as well, and it's already started. I've seen them on my page that I manage as well. Of people saying, so much for the tolerant left and everything. It's like,
listen, I'm far from tolerant. I mean, like, I don't know where the people have got all this, like, kind of the shit that they throw at where I'm not a pacifist and I'm not tolerant when it comes to bullshit. And it's like, certainly when it comes to like millions of people living in poverty, there's that phrase again, who aren't having their basic needs taken care of. Like, I don't want nothing to do with any of that. And like, you can spend 300 grand on a statue of this monster, but you can't you can't get rid of food banks. And it's just like absolutely utter total bait. Do not go and do mad shit to it. If you're going to get a stretch, do it for something worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, I see people talking about Thatcher in a way that is just absolutely wild to me. I mean, I think people have got really short memories. Like, she absolutely hated each and every one of you. Like, she did. She was, she was not a nice person. And you see people saying things like, "Oh, best prime minister she ever had." One of the comments on my page was, somebody said that she's still living rent free in people's heads 9 years after she died.
Not really, like.
My response to that was, if you go and have a look at, some of the communities, around the country, particularly in the north, particularly the former pit villages, the damage that she did can still be seen today. That we still have people who still have injuries, from police batons from the strikes back then. There were men who committed suicide. It was a horrendous time of what was done, and that is why she's so hated. That is why.
Speaking of the miners' strike, right? Here's now Baron Neil Kinnock. Neil Kinnock, who led the Labour Party between 1983 and 1992. During the strike was an 84 miners' strike, by the way. Condemned the egging of the Thatcher statue, adding, "The statue should be respected, full stop." Neil, go fuck yourself. This is a bloke who never turned up to as the leader of the Labour Party to any picket line, and his excuse was, "I haven't got time." I mean, couched in language of about diary and other commitments and that. What, for a year? You couldn't turn up for a year, could you not? Because he was waging war against militant within the Labour Party. It was fixing up to do it. So the reason I brought that in is like, fuck the Labour Party. Basically, they're just back to that now. So, you know, what use are they?
And people were kind of saying things, oh, well, you know, yeah, she might have done that, but Labour let them down as well. It's like, yeah, they did. You know, you're not going to get any arguments from me there. You know, we know that already. You know, but it's Thatcher's policies were so destructive that we're still feeling the blows now.
No doubt about it. I mean, we're from the northeast.
Yeah.
Like we spoke about Merseyside earlier. Like all of this still goes on. There's like generational like addiction and all of the things that come from long-term unemployment in especially like the coal fields in County Durham and places of this nature. But we could go off on a tangent on about all of that, and we probably will in the future. But basically, that statue is bait. And I wanted to talk about this, even if it was briefly, because do not take the bait.
I feel like not very subtle. I feel like you're talking to me directly.
I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to like other people, like Paul Veronica here saying balaclava up, baby. I'm not saying no, Paul, but like Nanya, I think you might have a few stuck in the cupboard. So if you want to sort of post them out to the boys. How ye like science apparently. Eggs does now to bronze, tomatoes promote oxide. Thanks for
that's why
the
I was
science
to warn people, you know, if you've got, you know, if you're taking your dog for a walk, you've got one of those balls with the sticks, make sure you don't accidentally put any tomatoes in there.
Don't do that.
To bronze.
More eggs, says Graham Robinson.
See, I feel like eggs are food, you know, for the food banks. You know, we are in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Tomatoes are generally a bit cheaper at the minute. But anyway, yes, do be careful that it is going to be used as a massive bait exercise.
Jez, it's nice that they've set up the Margaret Thatcher gender-neutral toilet. Get it weighed in at the Scrappy. What a belter. So anyway, just to play this particular section out, at the time, Michael Gove was kicking about. And this clip, I heard it a while ago, but I think it actually ties everything together, not just this segment, but also previous segments in terms of the 80s and 80s law and all of that. So this is Michael Gove, and this is what he and Tories think of you. Not like the colloquial you. I mean, you, Alice, you watching this. This is what they think.
Experiencing a new empire. An empire where the happy South stamps over the cruel, dirty, toothless face of the Northerner. At last, Mrs. Thatcher is saying, I don't give a fig for what half of the population say, because the richer half will keep me in power. This may be amoral, this may be immoral, but it's politics and it's pragmatism.
Saying the quiet bit out loud every single fucking time.
Saying it really loud. It's just the utter contempt, and yet we're still meant to fucking wave their flags and sing their stupid songs. No, we are not going to do that.
Exactly. So anyway, we've got time for a quick final section, and it's on this. So on the screen, we have this is a statement from a footballer, plays for Blackpool, and he has just come out, I think, in the last couple of days as a gay man. So this season has been a fantastic one for me. On the pitch, I've made my first team debut, scored 30 goals for the youth team. By the way, 17 years old. Signed my first professional contract and shared success with my teammates, going on a great run in the FA Youth Cup and lifting the Lancashire FA Pro Youth Cup. But off the pitch, I've been hiding the real me and who I really am. I've known my whole life that I'm gay, and I now feel that I'm ready to come out and be myself. It's a step into the unknown, being one of the first footballers in this country to reveal my sexuality. But I've been inspired by Josh Cavallo, Matt Morton, and athletes from other sports like Tom Daly to have the courage and determination to drive change. A 17-year-old lad. And here he is. Does this look like the face of a gay man? There's no particular face of a gay man, but we'll come into that. Anyway, what do you got to say?
You know what? I was reading it, and I was like, oh, that's great. But I was thinking, it's 2022, and why? I don't understand. Maybe it's because I don't follow it as much. Why do we not hear about? Why is this such big news? Because it's football. Because I was thinking, like, can I think of any other like gay footballers who are currently playing? And I can't. That doesn't mean that there isn't any, but it's why is it not talked about more? Is it? I don't know. You might be able to answer this question.
I can answer this, and I can tell you exactly what I think is going to happen with virtually 100% certainty.
Okay.
Crowds are going to absolutely torture him, particularly in the lower leagues, which is where he plays. There's a lot less stewarding, there's a lot less police operation. I mean, it's the clubs themselves that have to pay for stewards and the police. So in the lower leagues, especially after COVID, they're cutting corners, But the clubs have always cut corners with stewarding anyway. But in the Premier League, not so much. But he doesn't play there. I respect him for his bravery. I respect him for just the erudition that he's got at 17 years old, and the way he puts himself across. It's going to destroy him, though. And I'll give you an example of the last time footballer, to my knowledge, at least came out in the UK with any kind of profile was Justin Fashanu. Have you heard of Justin Fashanu?
And I know who Justin Fashanu was, and
I mean, but Justin Fashanu came out as a gay man, brilliant forward, great, and his career just went absolutely off the rails from pretty much that point on. The newspapers, some of whom we've mentioned this show already, have absolutely just investigated him, had a torrid time. Now, John Fashanu was also a footballer, who it was his brother. He played up front for Wimbledon during the Vinnie Jones kind of FA Cup winning era. You may, as somebody who doesn't know football, may know that. And he disowned his brother Justin when he came out as gay. So that went on, obviously, over time, and it resulted in Justin taking his own life. So I'm worried about Jake Daniels, the young lad who's just come out this week. Now, obviously, it's not the 80s anymore, but I go to football, and I'm telling you, he's going to get tortured for this.
Well, we still hear, so it's 2022, and we still hear people being subject to racist abuse and we know it's going to happen. And I think he's made this decision not unaware of that, even though he's only 17, he is already, because he's made that decision to come out, he is already going to have faced some of that. Now, it's, for anybody who's kind of saying, oh, it's football, why do you even have to talk about your sexuality? Why do you have to wear it on a T-shirt and everything? Actually, we know time and time again that being your authentic self is really, really important to our mental health, and him, not feeling that he has to hide it. That is important. That is why that is why he's saying this, and to be able to do that at 17 as well. I wish I'd been more like him, really, to be able to do that. And you don't do that without thinking of the consequences of that, really. So I hope although there are going to be absolute arseholes, and I hope they get punched if they do tend to shout things like that. I also hope that he has that support network behind him, and he's got really good, solid people, and that he's also got fans who are willing to cheer him on, and who are willing to kind of stand by him. And I think there's always people who pave the way, really. We know what happened to Justin Fashanu. We need to make sure that doesn't happen again. And it does come from people like him, a pretty 17-year-old making this decision, and good on him. Yeah, fully support him.
Oh God, I've got all the support in the world for him. And basically, I'll come on at the end of the section what I think we need to do as people who attend matches, but just generally in society. But before I do that, even a stop clock can strike midnight twice. You know what I'm saying. Owen Jones, right? I cannot stand the guy, right? However, he's made some good points, and I'm going to just put them out there. And I'd like to just sort of elaborate on what he's saying. So, opinion, why homophobia against straight men matters. Understand the hatred faced by LGBTQ plus people requires that we confront it in all its forms. So what he goes on to say is homophobia casts a long shadow over Callum's childhood. Are we allowed to say these terms on social media and that anymore, even if it's reporting? I'm not sure.
I don't even know in terms of
So anyway, basically, like, I'm going to say them. So anyway, homophobia cast a long shadow over Callum's childhood. Gay, bender, and faggot were spat at him by classmates with abandon. Beaten up in the changing rooms before PE, he was forced to change in the cleaner's cupboard instead. But the thing is, Callum isn't actually gay at all. He's a straight man that didn't matter to his assailants. Most of Callum's friends were girls or those also treated as outcasts, some of whom were exploring their sexuality as teenagers. He hated sport and loved performing arts. So anyway, Owen Jones is making that point. If I could just have a minute to elaborate. When I was at school, I was bullied. I'm not a gay man. I wasn't gay then. I'm not gay now. I'm straight. That's just how I am. But if I was gay, I'd be gay. So for about a period of 6 months, I was bullied. And some of it was like homophobic stuff, like, oh, you're a puff, you're this, you're that. It was 1980s, like, school in the northeast of England. Those people grow up, right? And I, off the back of that, then rebounded that bullying and actually bullying the sort of like gay like people never really said they were gay at school in the 80s, but you just kind of like knew the ones that were gay. So anyway, I'm not going to say his name, but I bumped into him, somebody who I then bullied as a result of it, and he is a gay man, and I knew this because I read about him, and he goes around schools talking about how he was bullied. Well, I bullied him for a bit. And I bottled apologizing to him. I saw him over the other side of the road. He stared at me. I scared him. I went, oh, you're right. Yeah. Like that. Like, and I wanted to go over and apologize to him, but I bottled it because I just thought, like, this was like 30 odd years ago. Like, what is he going to say? Do you know what I'm saying?
He might have said, I mean, I know people who this has happened to, and he might have said, okay, I appreciate you coming over. He might have told you to fuck off. You just don't know what, because sometimes shit like that can stay with people. It really, really can.
It does, and I wanted to take that away from him. I wanted to take that away if I could. I wanted to help, but I just bottled it, and I felt really upset afterwards,
Yeah, and so, it's good that you kind of wanted to do that, and I hope he does manage to see this so that he can get some kind of closure on that, because that's really what it's all about. I mean, I used to get called stuff at school like dyke and stuff like that. Yous were half right, bitches.
She like lasses and all. I didn't realise.
Yeah, so I used to I lived in a rural area, and word gets around. Let's just say that, and I'll just leave it at that. I did have a really kind of funny moment. There was one lass who, she wasn't the main perpetrator of it, not by far, but she was the one who would always laugh the loudest, the one who would always egg people on a little bit more, and then
the Richard Hammond to the real bully that is Jeremy Clarkson. the laugh along.
And yeah, pretty much that. And randomly, like quite a few years ago on Facebook, actually stumbled across a photograph of her civil partnership that she was having, in which case I just added a really passive aggressive congratulations. And they've split up again like a year later. So
oh no.
But there was, when I saw that, it was like part of me like absolutely like laughed out loud, like it was just kind of like, that is absolutely hilarious. And I did make that little passive aggressive comment because there was still a part of me that was like, yeah, okay, maybe you were going through some stuff as well and didn't want what happened to me happened to you as well, but at the same time still fuck you. It was kind of one of those, but we were all, a lot of us were kind of having some massive struggles in one way or the other when we were still in school, weren't we? And I do always think you don't know what was going on in other people's lives or anything like that. But yeah, I think kind of sometimes, I think more with social media now, you do see a lot more of people contacting people and maybe trying to make amends and stuff and things like that, maybe feeling guilty for something that happened or bumping into. And it's kind of, you can go ahead and do that if you want to. And in some ways, I do think it's the right thing to do, but you've got to be prepared for the reaction and be able to respect the fact that they might kind of go, yeah, don't really want to hear it. That's
so what I'm hearing is I need to give him the opportunity to tell us to fuck off or say thank you or somewhere in between. I think psychologically that's a good thing, not just for him, but I think it'll be good for me too, because we all evolve. At least I hope we do. And I'm absolutely horrified. And I need to make clear, I wasn't absolutely shocked, and it was nowhere near the bullying that I was subjected to, but it was enough. And it was something that isn't, I mean, look, I'm talking about when I was 13, 14. I mean, I'm a 45-year-old man now. But there's a comment here from Slaz, actually. And he had a similar age. And he's saying he had puffed a F-word huckle because he had last mates at school. And he's also saying we're closing in on 50 and these cunts are still 13 in their head. Absolutely, totally and utterly. That's the case. And these are the people who are going to the match, quite a lot of them. Yeah. So bringing it back to what's going on.
It back to that, yeah.
We need to challenge people. These are the practicals that we need to do. We need to be like, if at the match, just like, I'll give you an example. Somebody like racially abused Shola Amiobi, and I challenged them, like at the game. Like exactly the same rules apply to this. We can't like claim to like be allies or stand alongside people if we're not going to do it when it could hurt. Now you could easily get banged out at the match for doing something like that, but nevertheless we've got to do it. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it, tell a steward, get these people out of football, get them out of football. They've got no place being in football. However, football is riddled with some of the worst people on the planet going to the games, particularly some clubs away support. And they're going to torture this kid. Absolutely, like, just, oh my God. To stop another Justin Fashanu, we'll have to form a circle around this kid. He's 17, man. He's 4 years older currently than I was when I was bullying the lad at school or when I was getting bullied. 4 years is nothing at that age, man.
No, it's not. And it's good that we have these, because I mean, I'm talking, I don't want anybody thinking I was like some complete victim at school. I was also a bit like in completely different ways. I was sometimes like a bell end to other people as well. And that's something I have to take responsibility for as well. I certainly wasn't an angel, and I certainly wasn't without criticism at all in any way, shape or form. And I do look at myself honestly for that and think of the reasons why that was and try to make things different. But I think kind of on the back of what you're saying, completely agree with it, but also realizing that, and I'm not talking to you personally here, but sometimes those people shouting those things are the people you went to the match with. They were mates. And it's finding ways that we can all be better at challenging it when it's people we know and people we like. And that can be a lot different and in some ways a lot harder. Sometimes.
Indeed, and it's back to what Slaz was saying, that we're pushing 50 and people are still doing it from a 13-year-old mentality. Absolutely the case, and it's not just at football. We need to challenge this. We need to challenge this, particularly groups of lads like your mates, Huckle and all of this. Those things are designed not just to diminish the person, as Owen Jones is pointing out in his article, not just to diminish the person that may be gay, but it's the person that maybe isn't, because gay is a slur. All the other variations of that are directed at people with the whole chest as a slur. And like, I mean, it's just not on, is it? Like, it's people. I mean, if somebody, like, say if you had a girlfriend, right, and you were walking along the street and somebody was to give you grief for it, firstly, I'd be like, it's 2022. Secondly, I would be like, who we're going to smash to bits? Because it's just got to the point now where I've had enough of this shit, man. Like,
and it's only just in it's only just in the last couple of years that I notice it straight away when you see, when you'll see two lasses or two lads holding hands walking down the street. And a few times I've seen that, and often they've been like really young people, and I've just been like, oh, in that like when I was the same age as them, you know, if there was kind of young people who were having a relationship and they, you know, and it was two lads and it was two lasses, nobody found out about it. You didn't walk down the street holding hands. It just didn't happen. And it's so good that we are seeing that now as well. But again, it's about providing that protective circle around people.
Definitely. About around the whole LGBTQ plus community, basically, because it's obviously immediately this lad, but like I'm hoping that other footballers within the game like come out as well, because however, man, it's like not reflective of society, is it? It's like I can't remember the exact percentage of LGBTQ people in Britain as a percentage of population, but it's a huge amount of people, right? Whereas like you apply that as a data set with all of the footballers that exist in the UK as a data set, right? There's one person currently an active footballer who's come out as gay out of tens of thousands at all levels of the game. It just isn't the case. No. 1 in 10,000 footballers are gay, are there?
No.
Whatever.
Absolutely not. No, completely agree.
So we'll take some comments just to bring this one to a close. And Colin is saying, good luck, lad. You're going to need it. Indeed. Raj obviously commented before I brought up Justin Fashanu. Look at that poor Fashanu lad. So talented. Came out as gay and hurt so badly. Indeed. What else we got? Jez is saying, maybe at some point football can discover the 21st century and how we're trying to get past the whole bigotry thing. Indeed. Also, breaking news, Michael Dines, first of all, nice to see you here, Michael. BBC headline, Tory MP arrested on rape charges. If you just want to drop a little bit more in the comments, we'll be on doing positive news and we'll maybe do a little roundup at the end. So if you've got any more information on that, stick it in the comments and I'll see about getting it on the screen if possible.
I think the fact that I can't even figure out which one it is says a lot about... because you just think there's a list that it could have been. Let's say definitely that's a breaking story.
Just to bring this item to a close, like what would you, as well as somebody who's part of the LGBTQ community, obviously you don't speak for everybody, but what would you feel should be happening?
I think, well, exactly what we've talked about there being, people being more open to challenging people, making it less accepted, especially among your peers as well. Sure. That's one of the, that is one of the things. If you know that your mates are kind of going to take the piss out of you for being a homophobic, bellend, for holding beliefs that should have died like decades ago, then they're going to be less inclined to say them out loud, where they have like a real effect on people as well. And somebody, I think in the comments with them, in the best of faith said, good luck, he's going to need it. It's not just luck, needs it's allies. It's allies is what we need. It's not about luck. And I understand, I'm not having a go at that person. I understand that was said in very good faith, which is lovely. But we need allies.
Well, I'm prepared to fight somebody at the match if give him or any other person grief. So that's what'll happen.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's basic. I'm not saying everybody needs to go out and scrap people, but I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this as much as I'm tired of racism. Just let people live, you fucking bellend.
Exactly.
Shall I have some positive news?
Let's have some. I love this positive news. It made me really happy.
I'll tell you what. I'll set the scene and then you can tell us more. Yeah. Okay. So this is from The Voice, African Voices. Elders defeat council to win the right to play dominoes. It's not possible to play dominoes without making a noise, said the lads. So, a group of elderly Caribbean men beat a London council that banned them from playing dominoes in a square. Westminster City Council lost a court case after Ernest Theophile, 74, challenged the local authority who claimed the men were playing the game too loudly. The men had gathered at Maida Hill Market Square for the past 12 years to play dominoes, cards and backgammon until town hall officials stopped them. But Theophile, who was born in Dominica, accused the council of making a racially motivated decision and took him to court. Now he won after a judge said the decision was flawed and untenable. Neighbours in the posh area collected more than 200 complaints against the elders, claiming they were causing antisocial behaviour problems. So, Alice, what do you think about that?
Antisocial behaviour problems. This was a group of elderly Caribbean men who have been playing dominoes in the square for, I think, about 12 years or more.
Yeah.
So I think it started, the Westminster Council, obviously very posh, put this ban on them from playing dominoes. And I think a judge amended that slightly at some point to say, that they could play dominoes, but they face jail. They threatening to jail elderly people if they were caught playing loud, amplified music, drinking, shouting, or swearing.
Did they use the criminal justice bill or the powers within for this?
I actually don't know. I mean, I'm surprised we didn't see, a succession of repetitive beats in there. No, absolutely ridiculous. Now they're saying they had over 200 complaints. I've kind of been on the mediating end of complaints like this before. I'd be very, very surprised if 200 residents complained. I would imagine that the vast majority were repeated complaints from a small group of people, or even one person, which I've seen before as well, where it was like, oh yeah, we've had 70 complaints, and then you find out that it all came from exactly the same person. So these are probably the people who, the people complaining, whoever they were, probably, bang on about how they're in LA because they go to the Notting Hill Carnival and isn't it wonderful, but when it's a couple of old lads just trying to have a game of dominoes, it's let's
let them live, man.
Let's make them a criminal. But what's great about the story is Ernest Theophile, who was one of these people. He's 74 years old, and he basically challenged Westminster Council in court, and he actually won. I think the judge has said that it's that this order was flawed and untenable. And as Ernest kind of said himself, he was one. The point that we saw in the article there is that it's impossible for West Indian men to play dominoes quietly, but why should they? Why
exactly.
should they? Why can't you have like a little bit of life there and like do everything in silence? The other point that he made, and we see so much of it, is about loneliness. He's like saying like loneliness is one of the biggest factors as to why they gather there to meet each other to play dominoes. Especially after the couple of years that we've just had, and you're trying to stop that. It's, you can't bang on about loneliness, particularly in older people, and then call the fucking police on them when they try and like organize something themselves to do something about it. If you're that threatened by older people playing dominoes in the street, then Jesus Christ, God help you.
Oh God, it's just the NIMBYism of England writ large, this, isn't it?
Yeah, but no, it's the 74-year-old middle finger to Westminster Council. That made me really, really happy with this, that he took them on, and he won. More of this, please. I love it.
Big up Ernest Theophile at all times, and I hope in the autumn of his years, he's continuing to be a loud domino playing motherfucker. That's what I want to see. Get him out in that square.
Love it.
Aye, fantastic. Just on the Tory thing, just before we go, apparently it was a backbencher in his 50s, and
then now is it down a bit?
Banned from the Commons, and allegedly the abuse rape was over a 7-year period. Tory scum. Also, Tories just rejected the windfall tax on energy companies in a vote too. I mean, I wouldn't worry about that too much because the Labour Party have not been clear like where that money's going to go, and they've been very specific about it being a one-off when we need total system change. So I'm not really that bothered that it didn't happen because it's not going to make any real material difference. Just on the Tory rapist thing, I hope he's jailed for the rest of his life. He's a backbencher in his 50s. I've got a few ideas who it could potentially be, and I am going to not even get into a world of allegedly and just bring the show to an end and talk to you about it when the cameras are off. So please do comment, rate, and subscribe. Do all the good things that you know to do. sign up to the cow mailie dealing list. That's what you should do. The Cow Daily mailing list, link in description. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not done so. Thank you very much, my friends. Alice, thanks once again. It's been a long one, but I mean, I just don't know how we could have dropped any of these items this week, so we just had to do it, really.
And we're actually, considering there were so many, we did manage to still kind of keep it not as long. There's been times we could have gone on with these subjects and ran with it for 3 hours, and we have done that before. So,
I mean, like, well, there's like certain live streams. I mean, we do a different kind of format. Like some live streams, they'll just turn it on, and then they'll just be like, "What's happening?" And then just there's no plan. Which we could maybe do that kind of thing of a Sunday one week. I don't know, where we just hang out and talk about the papers. But that's not Cow Daily. Cow Daily is this. So anyway, comment, rate, and subscribe, all that good stuff. And hopefully I'm better now. I've said this every fucking week for weeks. And if that is the case, my God, I'll be a happy lad. Anyway, Alice, all the best to you, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
this broadcast must now come to a close as soon as I've found the button again. Bye, everybody. Thanks for all your comments. And thanks for being here. Some absolute belters there. I'm going to go and find out about this Tory, and then we'll probably have a couple of minutes speculating before we get a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Please do speculate out there, but make sure if you do it publicly, you say allegedly. Bye, everybody.